You know how a mystery, um, even when you just sort of stumble across, can really grab your attention
Oh, absolutely.
and make you want to understand what happened? Maybe find some kind of pattern in all the uncertainty.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, that's pretty much what we're diving into today. You're busy, we know that, so we've done the legwork.
Yep.
We've sifted through like a mountain of
Mm.
information to try and bring you the most important bits.
And today, that mountain is, it's the Wikipedia list of people who've mysteriously disappeared since 1990. It's, it's long.
Yeah.
And parts of it are pretty unsettling, but, within it, there's this fascinating, if maybe somber look at a really complex part of, well, being human.
Exactly. So our mission here isn't really to solve any specific case, obviously,
Yeah.
but more to see if we can pull out some key insights, like what circumstances seem common? Are there any, I don't know, surprising trends when you look at this whole collection?
Yeah.
Think of this as like your fast track to getting a handle on a truly huge and frankly often perplexing phenomenon.
It is vital to remember, though, that this list, and really statistics about missing persons generally, they paint a pretty incomplete picture.
Hmm.
The International Commission on Missing Persons, the ICMP, they've really highlighted how, well, unreliable global figures can be.
How so?
Well, factors like migration, lots of international travel these days,
Yeah.
and even people who choose to disappear, maybe start a new life, all that makes accurate counts just incredibly difficult.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And I guess when you start looking at disappearances linked to really serious stuff like trafficking or drug violence or conflict zones,
Oh, absolutely.
getting numbers you can actually verify must be even harder.
Exactly. So while we can look at some regional data, and we will, it's always with that caveat, the true scale of this is probably much larger and way more intricate than any stats can really show us.
Got it. So, keeping that big grain of salt in mind, what does the Wikipedia entry show us, regionally speaking?
Well, it gives some interesting snapshots. Like in the United States, the number of missing person cases apparently peaked back in the mid-1990s,
Oh, yeah. How high?
close to 1 million.
Wow. 1 million people.
Yeah. Now, thankfully, that has decreased quite a bit. It was around 520,000 in 2021.
Still a huge number.
It really is. And on average, there are roughly 90,000 people missing at any given time in the U.S.
90,000.
And interestingly, back in 2014, the split was about 60% adults, 40% children. And just as a side note, per capita in 2017, Oregon, Arizona, and Alaska had the highest rates.
Huh. Okay, what about, say, Canada?
Uh-huh.
How does it compare?
Well, what's fascinating there is that while their total number reported missing in 2015 was lower, around 71,000.
Right, much lower than the U.S. peak.
And much lower, yeah. But their per capita rate is actually higher than the U.S.
Really? That's surprising.
It is, isn't it? Now, the somewhat encouraging news out of Canada is that a big chunk, about 88%, are found within 7 days.
Okay, that's good.
It is, but that still leaves around 500 people each year who remain missing after a year, and those are often the really challenging, heartbreaking cases.
Yeah, 500 families still waiting. Okay, what about across the pond? The UK.
Well, there was a 2009 estimate suggesting a really staggering number. 275,000 people go missing every year.
250,000. Wow.
Yeah, and then you look at places like Japan, and the general feeling is that the number of missing persons is probably underreported.
Why is that?
Various cultural or social reasons, perhaps, so the official numbers might not really reflect what's happening on the ground.
So you get this picture of like a massive global issue, but it looks really different depending on where you are and how it's tracked.
Precisely.
But I think, to really get the gravity and the human side of it, we need to move past the numbers and look at some actual stories.
Absolutely, that's where it really hits home. So let's dive into some examples from the 1990s section of the list.
Okay.
The first one that just jumps out is from February 1990 in the UK. Ames Glover,
Ames Glover.
a 5-month-old baby, disappeared from his father's car in London.
Oh, man. A baby.
Yeah. It's hard to even imagine someone more vulnerable, right?
Totally.
And the fact that no charges were ever brought, it just leaves this really unsettling feeling.
Yeah.
What does a case like that immediately make you think?
It screams vulnerability, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The terror for the parents. When someone that young vanishes, it's like
Yeah.
every possibility is horrifying.
Mm.
Abduction, accident,
Right.
and no answers after all this time. It just makes the tragedy feel heavier.
It does. Then you've got Danette and Jeanette Millbrook, They were 15-year-old fraternal twins.
Twins, okay.
Last seen at a gas station in Augusta, Georgia. That was March 1990.
And what happened?
Well, their case was actually closed initially.
Closed? Why?
That's often unclear in older cases, maybe lack of leads, but it was reopened decades later in 2013.
Wow. So there's still hope there.
Exactly. It speaks to how these mysteries just endure and how families keep pushing for answers.
That reopening, it really underscores the effort, doesn't it? Police, families, and maybe new science helps.
Absolutely. Advancements in forensics, DNA, even just new ways of looking at old files can breathe life into cold cases, even after so long.
Okay, so just a month later, April 1990, the list has Teddy Wang.
Ah, yes. The businessman.
Prominent Chinese businessman, founder of a big company in Hong Kong, kidnapped, never seen again. It's a reminder that this isn't just, random people off the street. It hits all levels of society.
Definitely. And a high-profile case like Wang's
Okay.
can have huge ripples. Business, politics, public fear, they get intense scrutiny.
And then, just days after Teddy Wang vanished, there's Triveline Evans in Wales.
The antique shop owner.
Yeah. Disappeared from her shop, left a note saying, back in 2 minutes.
Chilling.
But she never came back. That kind of sudden, casual disappearance, it's just baffling. What could possibly happen in 2 minutes?
It's so hard to say. Those really quick ones, they suggest maybe a very fast abduction. Or a sudden accident nearby that stopped her coming back. Or maybe she chose to leave and something went wrong immediately. The lack of any warning. It's so perplexing for investigators.
Okay, moving into July 1990. Sarah McDiarmid in Australia.
I remember this one. Signs of a struggle.
Yeah. Possible struggle near her car. So that suggests foul play, right?
It points that way, certainly.
It adds a different layer, doesn't it? Like there's some physical clue about what might have happened, even if you still don't know the final outcome.
True. Evidence of a struggle immediately shifts the focus towards, potential violence.
Yeah.
But even with clues like that, if there's no body, no confirmed perpetrator, investigators are still in a really tough spot. And the family, they don't get that closure.
Later that summer, August 90, Eugene John Hebert, American missionary,
Where was he?
Sri Lanka, disappeared while traveling between cities. It just highlights the risks people can face, working or traveling in places that are maybe unfamiliar or unstable.
Oh, absolutely. Disappearances in foreign countries, they add whole layers of complexity, different jurisdictions, language barriers, different police procedures.
Yeah.
And if there's political stuff or conflict involved, like there might have been in Sri Lanka then, it gets even harder to find answers.
Okay, and rounding out 1990, there's Licorice McKechnie.
The musician.
Yeah, from the Incredible String Band, I think. Last reported living in California. Whereabouts unknown since around 1990. This kind of case, it feels different. Maybe she just drifted out of touch. But still, no confirmation leaves this uncertainty.
Yeah, that one's more ambiguous, isn't it? No obvious sign of foul play, but just gone. Complete lack of contact for so long, it naturally worries people who knew her. Her fate's just an open question.
Okay, so let's move into 1991 then. There's a really a disturbing one here early on.
Yeah.
Thomas Gibson.
Thomas Edson.
2 years old, yeah. Disappeared from his front yard in Oregon. And the truly awful part, his own father was later convicted of manslaughter. But Thomas's body was never found. It's just chilling. How a disappearance can be tied up in family tragedy, but still leave huge questions, even with a conviction.
Cases involving family, they're just incredibly complex, emotionally devastating.
Yeah.
And even if someone is convicted, not finding the body, it just prolongs the agony for everyone else. You never know the final moments.
Later in 91, up in Canada, Michael Dunahee, 4 years old.
The playground disappearance?
Yeah, vanished from a school playground. His parents were right nearby. No witnesses to any abduction were ever found.
God, that's terrifying.
A little kid in a supposedly safe public place, just gone.
Disappearing from a supervised spot like that is especially shocking. It always causes this huge public reaction, massive investigations.
Yeah.
But no witnesses in Dunahee's case. That's still a major hurdle for investigators trying to figure out what happened.
Then in July 91, there's the very sad story of Jared Nickray.
The Boy Scout.
Yeah, got lost on a mountain expedition in California. We found candy wrappers and his camera.
Oh, the camera.
And the last photo on it, it just showed his eyes and nose. It's such a haunting detail.
Yeah.
Really brings home the human tragedy,
Yeah.
What does a detail like that even suggest?
Finding personal things like the camera, the tangible link to his last moment, sometimes it offers clues.
Right.
But that last photo, just his eyes and nose, It's incredibly evocative. It sort of underscores how sudden and maybe disorienting getting lost like that can be. Just a poignant reminder of how vulnerable we are out there.
Also, July 91, Ben Meadham in Greece. He was just 21 months old.
Yeah, that case got a lot of press.
Vanished while his grandparents were renovating a farmhouse on Kos.
Right.
And over the years, so many theories. Kidnapping, maybe for illegal adoption, but also the possibility of just a tragic accident.
And didn't they do some excavations later?
Yeah, in 2016, they found some things suggesting he might have died accidentally on the construction site. Possible blood on a toy car and a sandal. It really shows how these cases can evolve, doesn't it? New evidence comes up even years later, and the whole understanding shifts.
The Ben Needham case is a perfect example of that, how speculation, hope, science, they all kind of weave together and change the story over time.
Yeah.
The sheer length of that investigation, the changing theories, it just shows how hard it is for investigators trying to piece things together from fragments.
Okay, 1992. This brings us to the really well-known Springfield 3 in the U.S.
Ah, yes. Levitt, Streeter, and McCall.
Cheryl Levitt, her daughter Susie Streeter, and Susie's friend Stacy McCall disappeared from Cheryl's home right after a high school graduation party.
A triple disappearance.
Yeah. On that scale, it's particularly disturbing. A very complex puzzle for police.
When multiple people vanish together, it often suggests something more deliberate, maybe more organized.
Or just one awful incident.
Or one devastating incident, exactly. The Springfield 3. It's still one of the most perplexing mysteries out there. No real answers after all this time.
Later that year, August 92, Lee Oakey, 13 years old.
Mississippi. During the hurricane.
Yeah, disappeared from her home during the chaos of Hurricane Andrew. Her mother came home and found blood inside.
Oh, terrifying.
Adding that element on top of a natural disaster. How does something like a hurricane complicate a missing person case?
Oh, hugely. A disaster like Andrew creates chaos. Right.
Located.
That chaos can actually help someone disappear or cover tracks.
Right.
And at the same time, it totally hinders the investigation. Evidence gets destroyed or washed away. Witnesses are displaced. Police are overwhelmed. It makes figuring out what really happened incredibly difficult.
Okay, moving into 1993. We've got Annie McCarrick, American woman, disappeared after running errands in Dublin. Then Catherine Eggleston in the U.S. vanished after a business appointment. Her car was found 9 miles away.
Just normal activities.
Exactly. These cases really underscore that unsettling idea that disappearances can just happen during ordinary, everyday life.
Those daytime routine disappearances, they're often the most unsettling, aren't they? Because there's no obvious high-risk thing happening.
Right.
Investigators are left scrambling, looking for any tiny clue about how someone could just vanish during a normal part of their day.
January 1994.
Yeah.
Yelenia Carisi. She was an Italian celebrity.
Daughter of singers, right. Disappeared in New Orleans.
Yeah, during a vacation. The fact that even people with public profiles aren't immune, it just highlights how unpredictable this stuff is.
When a celebrity disappears, it gets massive media attention. Sometimes that helps, generates leads, keeps the case alive. But it also adds layers of complexity. You have to manage all the speculation, potential misinformation. It's a lot.
Later in 94, Ravel Balmain, Australian model, dancer, also an escort.
Believed murdered, right?
Yeah, disappeared from Sydney, believed murdered. This case touches on, the vulnerabilities some people face because of their profession, the potential for targeted violence.
When a disappearance might be linked to someone's job or lifestyle, sometimes that gives investigators specific leads to follow. But it can also get complicated by social stigma, maybe people being reluctant to talk, lack of reliable info from certain circles.
Okay, 1995 brings us Richie Edwards.
Ah, the guitarist from Manic Street Preachers.
Yeah, disappeared right before a U.S. tour. His car was found near a known suicide spot.
And he had a history of struggles.
Yeah, personal struggles. He was legally declared dead in 2008, but they never found his body. How does someone's known history like that affect how people see their disappearance?
Well, a person's documented history, especially around mental health or personal challenges, it definitely shapes the theories.
Right.
In Richie Edwards' case, his known depression made suicide a prominent theory, even without definitive proof.
May 1995. Gerhun Choki Nima, a young Tibetan boy.
Recognized as the Panchen Lama.
Yeah, him and his family disappeared. This one is hugely political. China says he's alive and well, but it can't be independently verified.
Right.
It really shows how disappearances can get tangled up in massive geopolitical issues, human rights concerns.
The disappearance of the Panchen Lama really underscores that, how political context can lead to forced disappearances, total lack of transparency, the fact that no one independent can confirm he's okay after all these years. It's a major human rights issue.
June 1995. Jody Hosentrud, news anchor.
Abducted from her apartment parking lot.
Yeah, in Iowa. Declared legally dead in 2001.
Yeah.
Just another sad example that even professionals, seemingly secure, can be victims.
Her abduction right outside her home, it highlights how random and unpredictable violence can be.
Yeah.
And the lack of any clear motive or witnesses in her case has made it incredibly difficult to solve.
Later in 1995, Josephine Dullard in Ireland.
The phone box call.
Yeah, last call from a phone box. Said she got a lift from someone she didn't know. Police believe she was murdered.
Chilling.
Just a stark reminder of the potential danger of, chance encounters, accepting help from strangers.
That final phone call, it's a haunting window into her last known moments. A terrible warning, really. And the police believing she was murdered just underscores the tragic potential outcome.
Also, November 1995, Ruth Wilson. Teenager in England.
Took a taxi to a beauty spot.
Yeah, and then vanished. Theories range all over the place. Suicide, abduction, just running away, nothing ever proven. This kind of multifaceted uncertainty seems like a recurring theme, doesn't it?
It really does. That wide range of unproven theories in Ruth Wilson's case, it shows the challenge for investigators when there's just no definitive evidence. Each possibility, suicide, abduction, running away, needs a totally different approach. Hard to know where to focus.
Okay, let's jump forward to 1997. Kristen Modafferi.
San Francisco, right. Coffee shop job.
Yeah, disappeared after leaving work, reportedly seen talking to a blonde woman later. Then Amy Roe Bechtel. Last seen at a photo shop in Wyoming. Believed she went running in Shoshone National Forest.
They found her car.
Found the car, yeah, but no trace of her. Just classic examples of people vanishing after normal activities, leaving almost no clues.
These 97 cases really underscore how quickly, how unexpectedly someone can just disappear from their routine. The last sightings. They give you a time frame maybe, but often not enough info to figure out what actually happened.
Then there's the very well-known case of Don Lewis in 1997.
Ah, the millionaire connected to the Tiger King story?
That's the one. Disappeared, van found at a private airport. This case got huge public attention recently, didn't it?
Oh, massively.
It shows how certain cases just capture the public imagination. Maybe the wealth, the unusual circumstances.
Yeah, the Don Lewis case is especially fueled by that docuseries. It shows how wealth, weird personal lives, intriguing details, it can lead to this huge public fascination years later.
Also in 97, Sabrina Eisenberg, just 4 months old.
Vanished from her crib in Florida.
Yeah. Garage door was found unlocked, and her parents. They later won a big settlement for malicious prosecution.
Wow.
Which really emphasizes the potential for things to get complicated, even for miscarriages of justice in these investigations.
The Eisenberg case is just heartbreaking. A child vanishing. The impact on the family is immense.
Yeah.
And the legal stuff afterwards highlights that tightrope law enforcement walks, the potential for serious fallout if mistakes are made.
Okay, 1998, Suzanne Lyle. Last seen getting off a bus at SUNY Albany.
ATM card used the next day.
Yeah, used the next day, then nothing. Her parents became really dedicated advocates for missing persons. It shows how these awful personal tragedies can sometimes spark, broader activism, a push for change.
The advocacy of Suzanne Lyle's parents, it's incredible, really. Shows the resilience of these families, their commitment to raising awareness, improving how these cases are handled.
Dear Jacob in Ireland. Disappeared near her home in 98.
Student teacher.
Yeah. And her case was officially reclassified as a murder investigation way later, in 2018.
2 decades later.
Exactly. Highlights the incredibly long timelines and how the official view of a case can totally change as new information comes up.
That reclassification, it underscores the persistence of police in pursuing cold cases, how new evidence or just fresh eyes can change everything, even after years.
Derek Engebretson, 8 years old, Oregon, 1998.
Looking for a Christmas tree.
Yeah, with his family, they found circular footprints and a snow angel near where he was last seen.
Oh, that's chilling.
Just an awful detail. And a convicted child rapist was considered a suspect, adding this really sinister layer.
Those details, the footprints, the snow angel, they create such a haunting picture. A stark reminder of how vulnerable kids are and the potential for predators to be involved.
Okay, 1999, we have a really violent one. Paul Skiba, his 9-year-old daughter Sarah, and an employee, Lorenzo Chivers.
Disappeared during a delivery job.
Yeah, in Colorado, I think. Their moving truck was found abandoned. Bullet holes, blood inside.
Grim.
Just a grim illustration of how disappearances can be directly tied to crime, extreme violence.
That case. It strongly suggests a violent crime, doesn't it? Finding the truck like that points to a tragic, probably fatal outcome, even though they've never been found.
Pammy Lamond Ngano, young Ojibwe woman in Canada, also 99.
Likely murdered after a party.
Yeah. It highlights the particular vulnerabilities that, indigenous communities can face and the challenges in getting justice.
Her disappearance, the suspicion of murder, it really underscores systemic issues, how marginalized communities can be more vulnerable, and how hard it can be to get resolution in those cases.
Also 99, Julie Surprenant in Canada.
Quebec. What's the story there?
Disappeared from Terrebonne. Years later, a neighbor confessed on his deathbed to murdering her.
Wow. A deathbed confession?
Yeah. It shows how justice, even if it's way delayed and posthumous, can sometimes come about in really unexpected ways.
That case, the confession. It shows these mysteries linger, doesn't it? And answers can pop up unexpectedly long after maybe hope seemed lost.
And finally, for the 90s, Michael Negrete, UCLA music student.
Disappeared from his dorm.
From his accommodation, yeah. 1999. His case was classified as a homicide.
So they suspect foul play.
Strongly suspected, yeah. Even without a body or a known perpetrator.
That classification highlights those tough situations where investigators rely on circumstantial evidence, deduction, trying to figure out the likely outcome without concrete proof.
So as we kind of move into the 2000s and beyond, we just see this pattern continue, right? Really diverse circumstances.
Absolutely.
You have Asha Degree, young girl, vanishes from her home, middle of the night, 2000. Trevor Deely in Ireland disappears after a Christmas party, same year. And they released enhanced CCTV years later trying to find answers.
Yeah, those cases from the early 2000s, they show the whole range. A child vanishing from bed, a young man last seen after a party, and the ongoing efforts for Trevor Deely using new tech like better CCTV, it shows investigations keep evolving.
Rillia Wilson, foster child in the U.S., disappeared 2001. That one's deeply concerning.
The caregiver was convicted.
Yeah, caregiver convicted in connection with her disappearance, but really his body was never found.
Yeah.
It really shines a light on the safety of kids in the foster care system.
Oh, definitely. The Rillia Wilson case just underscores the huge responsibility child welfare agencies have. Protect vulnerable kids.
Yeah.
And the tragic outcomes when that doesn't happen.
Then you have Lisa Stabick, 2007. Disappeared during a divorce in the U.S. Her husband still a person of interest.
Right.
And, of course, the huge one, Madeleine McCann, Portugal, 2007.
Highly publicized.
Extremely. And a new suspect identified in Germany in 2020. Authorities there now think she's dead. What kind of impact does that level of media glare have?
Well, like we touched on, high-profile media, like in the McCann case, it's a real double-edged sword.
Yeah.
It can generate massive public awareness, maybe shake loose new leads, but it can also spread misinformation, rumors, totally complicate the investigation, and put just immense pressure on the family and the police.
Right. Okay. The 2010s, more unsettling cases. Kyron Horman, young boy, disappears after school, Portland, Oregon, 2010. Ben McDaniel, experienced diver. Last seen 2010 in a Florida cave he wasn't certified for.
And wasn't there something suspicious about the spring owner?
Yeah, the owner of the cave diving spring died suspiciously later. Adds a whole other layer of intrigue to that one.
Yeah, Kyron Horman and Ben McDaniel. Very different situations. Kid vanishes after school. Adult takes a known risk. But that suspicious death in McDaniel's case, it hints at maybe more sinister stuff going on.
Timothy Pitson in 2011. That one is just baffling and heartbreaking.
The mother took him on a trip.
Yeah, took him on a trip, and she died by suicide. Left a note saying Timothy was safe, but would never be found.
Oh, God.
It's a mystery with almost no tangible clues. What do investigators even do with a note like that?
A cryptic note like that. It's an incredible challenge. Is it true? What was her state of mind? How can he be safe but never found?
Right.
It opens up so many possibilities. Some hopeful, some deeply, deeply worrying.
Ayla Reynolds, toddler, disappeared from her dad's home in Maine, 2011. Investigators said evidence suggested foul play. In Phoenix Colden, also 2011, her SUV found still running, purse inside, but she was gone.
Just gone.
Yeah, these cases just keep highlighting the diverse, perplexing ways people disappear.
The Ayla Reynolds and Phoenix Colden cases, Different contexts, but both point to sudden, unexplained disappearances where something seems wrong right away. Leaves police grappling with possibilities, trying to piece together fragments.
And finally, looking at more recent cases, Anna Walsh, real estate exec, disappeared just last year, 2023.
The husband's been charged.
Yeah, has been charged with murder. They found significant incriminating evidence, apparently, but Anna herself hasn't been found.
Right.
It's just a stark reminder that this keeps happening right now.
The Anna Walsh case really underscores that. Mysterious disappearances are still a contemporary issue, even with all our tech and forensics. These cases can be incredibly hard. And not finding the body adds a huge layer of difficulty for getting resolution, for giving the family closure.
So, as we've kind of journeyed through just a small slice of this massive list, it's just so clear, isn't it? Mysterious disappearances are truly a global thing.
Absolutely.
They affect everyone, all ages, tiny babies to the elderly, every background imaginable. And the circumstances, they're incredibly varied. And the sad reality is they often leave behind way more questions than answers.
And like we said at the start, those unreliable global stats, they just highlight how hard it is to really grasp the true